Welcome to Just Chopsing Podcast. Today with David and myself we have India Willoughby. India Willoughby is a newsreader, I think. Are you a newsreader, India?
Yeah, well, sort of. I haven't done news reading for a while. I would say I'm a sort of broadcaster, commentator, TV personality. Basically, I pop up on daytime TV type of programs. And I did Big Brother, Celebrity Big Brother.
Yeah, okay, so you did. I mean, I've written them down somewhere. I mean, I'm not in the UK, so I don't know any of these. I know Big Brother, but I don't know. I haven't seen you on TV, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I did have them written down. I don't know where.
Yeah, you were on Loose Women, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Big Brother, Loose Women. Channel 5 News.
Yeah. That's right. Read the news on Channel 5 for a year. Probably best known for being, when I was doing the news reading, that made me the first trans person in the world to read their national news on TV. And also I was the first trans loose woman as well.
You know, to actually be
I am very translucent in my skin. Yeah, I'm giving it a good polish because obviously I can tell by looking at you two, you're into your grooming. So, so I had a good polish there. So that was my other claim to fame, being the first trans co-host of Loose Woman.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I came across you because I saw you on Twitter. I mean, this is going back quite a long time now, I guess.
Yeah.
4 or 5 months ago, maybe. Because you made a post about being bullied and all sorts of stuff on Twitter. So yeah, then I reached out to you and said, oh, do you want to just come on and tell us, explain your side of it? Well, I don't know why you're getting bullied. I mean, obviously I looked you up later, and it says in your bio on Twitter anyway that you're a transsexual newsreader, if you like. But yeah, I mean, bullying on Twitter, I mean, how'd you cope with that?
Oh, it's horrendous, guys, and it's actually getting worse. Okay. Do you know what? I'm sure, I don't want to get too political, and I don't know what colour flags you wave or anything.
White. Mine's white.
Right? I'm sure the government are actually encouraging all of this division and splitting people up and saying they're to blame for your problems. And basically you end up with like a big fight. Everybody's punching hell out of each other and they don't notice what's going on. I just think it's horrible. So yeah, the bullying online is atrocious. It's atrocious for me. It's not just trans people who get it as well. It's obviously other people. Whether you're it's not even a celebrity thing. It's like anyone at all. So I actually support this campaign. Where they want to make accounts verified in some way.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's quite a good idea because then you're responsible for what you say.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good idea as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, in today's society, I'm really against cancel culture, to be honest, because there's too much cancel culture going on. But there's no need for fucking online bullying. You know what I mean?
Absolutely not.
It's like
you should be able to go on and have a laugh, and you should be able to go on and debate your
point,
wherever you think and what have you. But it's just when it gets nasty, and some people can't help going down nasty street and getting horrible about it.
Well, I'm against cowardice as well. Because I'm against bullies because I was bullied when I was a little kid for a start. So I kind of bought bullies. I mean, in the end I stood up for myself and sorted it all out. But I don't understand why, and especially, and this goes for football hooligans as well, and all these people, these rioters and protesters, they're all trying to stand up for what they believe in. And especially with football hooligans, they're fighting for what they believe in because they believe in their football club, if you like.
Yeah.
But they've all got masks on, Everybody wants to hide their face. If you really feel that passionate about what you're doing and what you're saying, take your mask off. Don't hide behind a keyboard. Show us who you are,
100%.
It's like, well, I don't want to get into too much of a rant because we always have a rant on this program.
Can I just say that, look, obviously this is the first time we've met, down the line here, looking at each other and what have you. And obviously you're sat down. I can't imagine anyone bullying you.
No, it was when I was a child.
Yeah. But now, definitely not. I think you could look after yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I
look
learned.
after me as well when I was a kid. So
Yeah.
I used to get bullied, and I used to send my cousin over to go and duff him up. That's what
Brilliant.
I
That's
used to do.
the best way.
Yeah, that was me, unfortunately. So,
Yeah, that's the trouble with, we mention about social media quite often. I think that's probably the biggest problem with it is bullying. So like when you were in school, if you got bullied in school, you could go home and you could shut the door on the bullies. But now kids with their phones and their laptops and even their gaming consoles, you just can't get away from it, can you? You're 100% accessible.
Yeah, it's in your pocket all the time, and they know where you are. So yeah, I don't know what the answer is, because obviously now you have these things called VPNs, which I've never even heard of until a few months ago. So you can actually hide. You could be in, I don't know, somewhere, Swansea, officially, but you're in Holland or anywhere like that. So it makes it really difficult. I don't know what the answer is, guys.
But I didn't think about VPNs. But
just be nice.
Yeah,
I'd rather have a laugh and a joke.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. Life's too short in it, really.
Yeah.
So anyway, going back to your childhood, then you grew up in Carlisle. I think you were born in London, but grew up in Carlisle. Was that right?
Yeah, I was born in London, and we moved away when I was about 2 years old, so I can't really remember it. Because my stepdad, he was a professional footballer.
Okay.
And obviously, but just like lower league, I think in those days it was Division 1, 2, 3, and 4, and he sort of like floated around Division 3 and 4, so he was professional, but he wasn't like the equivalent of a David Beckham or anything like that. And in those days, when you were a footballer as well, especially if you were lower league, you actually had a job. Loads of footballers were milkmen on the side, so they had a news agent or a pub. They would supplement their income wherever it was sort of to do. So because he was that type of footballer, every couple of years we would get he would get transferred. We sort of zigzagged around the country, and we ended up in Carlisle, which I always think Carlisle sounds as if it should be in Wales, and it's near Penrith.
Yeah.
Penrith sounds very Welsh to me.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I was a fucking idea. I was going to say that. But you, so as a child, then you grew up with your stepfather being a footballer, but you started to play football also, didn't you, when you were a kid?
That's right. Yeah, when I sort of cottoned on, because I always knew, that I wasn't a boy. As simple as that. I always knew, but I quickly cottoned on that the way to ingratiate yourself and become a boy and popular was football, because all the boys liked football. So I used to go out and like practice so hard, by myself, and all sorts of things, like keepy ups and knocking the ball against the wall and all that sort of thing. And I got really good, and I ended up having trials with Carlisle United. I can still do this. I put a video up earlier this year in the summer. So I'm in my 50s now, and I did 100 keepy ups.
That was pretty
challenge.
Yeah.
Which is not
I
bad.
can't even do 3.
There's somebody who's 50. That's pretty good.
Yeah, but you got invited for Aston Villa as well, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I didn't actually go to the Aston Villa. Yeah. I got a couple of invites to go places. So the one I went to was Carlisle United, just because it was on my doorstep. But that was interesting as well, because are you guys into football at all?
Yeah, David is. I can't stand it.
Terry's not. He supports Arsenal.
I love it. Well, that was a sly dig. Mind you, they had a good result the weekend. But yeah, I was like, obviously, you can tell I'm not like a bulky, big person. So I was very slight and skinny and everything. And I had all the techniques, if you like. I was technically good at football. But then when I turned up at Carlisle United on the first day to be an apprentice, I looked around and they were all like big boys. They were like proper muscly and everything. And all the training, actually, there wasn't a lot of interestingly, there wasn't a lot of actual football involved in the training. It was more about fitness and being able to keep running and strength and all that sort of thing. So I only did it for a couple of days. And then I lost interest because I was just getting battered around, not physically, deliberately bullied or anything, but just in the process of the game, I was taking a lot of knocks, and it was just like, it was too much, and I lost interest. I guess their idea was that you could have, bulked up and done it that way, and you would have got on. But yeah, it just wasn't for me, really. So I'm still interested in football, but yeah, that's when it sort of faded out. Then
you support Man United?
Of course.
See, fucking hell, that's rubbish.
What's wrong with that?
Hey,
David supports Man United as well.
Yeah, top man, David, top man. They're doing well. Is it Ollie in or Ollie out, do you think?
I've been a supporter of Ollie since he joined, but I don't know if he can do the biz. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm the same. He
I
seems
don't know
like
if
a
he's
nice
an
guy.
I know you've got to give him time, but I don't know if
Yeah.
he's going to be able to deliver. I honestly don't know. And if he doesn't win anything this year, I don't think he's the right guy for the job.
Oh, he'll have to get the bullet. He's spent everything, hasn't he?
Yeah.
What, he must have spent God knows how much.
Yeah.
But he's a nice guy, but whether he can actually make them...
That's it. Is he too nice? I mean,
Too nice.
But maybe Ronaldo turning up now, I think that'll change the dynamic in the changing room. I would imagine, like, Pogba, to me, seems a bit negative.
Yeah.
But Ronaldo is really positive. Cavani's really positive. So
Yeah.
I the older heads, perhaps they'll be able to bring the youngsters on. We've got like Jadon Sancho and a few of the other youngsters coming through that are, they're going to be quality players. Looking up to the likes of Ronaldo. I mean, Ronaldo, for me, is the best of all time.
I agree. He's the greatest, isn't it? Hey, it's good to hear. I thought everybody in Wales was just like rugby daft and football didn't get a look in.
No,
so it's good to hear that there's it's still popular.
It is, but we've only got two teams. We've got Cardiff City and Swansea, haven't we, really? I mean, we've got Newport County have been doing pretty well. But
Newport County, yeah.
Yeah, in fairness, in Wales, we don't tend to have too many teams, really. But it is popular. My two nephews play it. So they're really big into football. Massive.
Yeah,
I mean, when we have regular arguments, whether Messi's better than Ronaldo and vice versa. So.
Tops.
Yeah, but it is. Yeah. But I get what you're saying. So obviously, when you were playing football, the players weren't protected then, were they? You know what I mean? Whereas now, they're really
well, now,
protected.
you know what? That's a really good point. I'd never thought of that. Now, I would probably have actually carried on because there's more protection in football. The times you're talking about, and we're probably, I'm guessing here, we're maybe all of a similar sort of age.
Yeah, we are, yeah.
Sort of generation.
David's a little bit younger, but...
but in football, more or less, anything went.
Yeah.
There was a lot of, like, really tough footballers around at the time, and you could actually deliberately, as part of your game plan for that particular match, just go out and kick the guy who was the good technical player, and nothing would happen. You would get away with it. So, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, but you had to take them knocks as well, mind. You couldn't just give them, you also had to take them,
That's right.
But that's the good old days of football, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
That's when footballers were real footballers. I mean, now they're like fucking namby-pambies, and they just fall around the pitch everywhere, don't they?
They do. They roll around.
They roll, and that's... I mean, that bugs... I mean, David knows it really bugs me because... When the Euros were on not so long ago, I mean, I was always texting him because they would get tapped on the ankle, they'd roll around the floor, for like 10 minutes, and then as soon as they saw they got a free kick, they'd be up and they'd be running off,
Yeah,
and to me that's just not sportsmanlike.
Yeah, I agree, and you don't get that in rugby.
No,
you don't. No.
You don't. No.
They're like biting each other's ears off and noses and just cracking on.
Yeah. I mean, well, rugby, rugby's a proper man's game, isn't it? It's like,
yeah. Well, I was never big enough to play rugby, so that's why I ended up playing football.
Yeah.
Because I would have got massacred on the rugby field.
You would have got squashed.
Well, I wasn't big enough to play rugby, and I was crap at football, so. But, yeah. So you got some questions, Dave? Dave?
Yeah. So, I'm still here.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
I can see you, Dave.
So going back to your reporting days, what would you say was one of the biggest stories you ever covered?
Oh, biggest stories. Well, Well, actually, two. The first one well, they're both horrible, but the first one was really, really horrible. Was the Lockerbie Air crash?
Oh yeah.
And I was like a cub reporter at the time. Literally, just got into reporting, and obviously being at Carlisle's like, I would guess it's about 15 miles away from where Lockerbie is, and it was Christmas, obviously, when it happened. And we were on our works due, and we were in the pub, and somebody came in the pub and said, "Oh, plane's gone down. You need to get out there and see what's gone on." And at that stage, we all thought it was, like a two-seater thing, because Carlisle has a little airport. It's not like where the jumbo jets land. It's, like for businessmen and
like
what have you. Yeah, one of those sort of things. So we were thinking, it's just like a little, did they call them pipers or whatever they're called? But obviously, when we got up there, it was just like a scene from hell. It was like, there was this big trough down the middle of, it was a street called Sherwood Crescent. And it had gone down there, and you could see the groove, there it had left, and there was just fire everywhere, bits of fire hanging in trees and all around. It really was like one of these, apocalyptic type of films you see on from Hollywood, and the smell of petrol or whatever they used, fuel, just all over the place. Houses knocked down. It was just absolutely horrific chaos. So yeah, that was probably the biggest
story you covered.
And then the second one was a one which was a bit similar to that, actually, but it tends to have been forgotten now. But at the time, it was big, and it sort of sticks in my mind. It was Richard Branson's new train, the Pendolino, and it was on this journey, and it came off the tracks, and it went again in the middle of the night with all the passengers on board. There was like 100 and something people on. It was heading up to Glasgow, and it came off the track in the middle of the night, and they sent us down. And when we got there, again, it was just surreal to see this full stretch, like intercity train off the tracks that had got rolled down the hillside, and all the screams and people being hurt and passengers wandering around. They didn't know where they were or what was going on. That was like chaos. So yeah, that was a pretty thing. But on the better side, I think my favourite thing was probably meeting, because I'm a big Elvis fan. Okay. So when I was doing Loose Women as one of the actual Loose Women, we had
Priscilla
Presley on.
Yeah, that was your first episode, wasn't it?
That was it. Yeah, and she was fantastic. A lot of people, this is interesting actually, I'm going to get asked you to what you think. A lot of people think that Priscilla Presley looks a bit weird now. Now, I always think that obviously when she was a young girl, she was probably one of the most beautiful women in the world. When she married Elvis and she was just in her teens, she was absolutely stunning. But she's had work done, as it were. But I still think she looks good. I mean, she must be, 80, easily in her 80s now. And her eyes, I kid you not, and you can't get anything done to your eyes, the actual eye, not the area around it. Her eyes were so young and bright. I thought she was beautiful. She was like really, really cool. Very cool. And she's done really well as well, because this is surprising, a lot of people don't realize that obviously Elvis was one of the biggest stars there's ever been. But at the time of his death, considering how massive he was in terms of stature, and the history he's left, he didn't actually have all that money. When you think what Elvis should have had, he didn't. His affairs were terrible because he'd been like slobbing it out. He'd been doing his Las Vegas gigs and what have you. But he wasn't really flavour of the month. He wasn't top of the pops anymore, Elvis. And one of the things that Priscilla did was, to start getting all the rights. I think a lot of people have been ripping off and bleeding Elvis Presley dry, towards the end, because he wasn't fully compos mentis. So like all the lawyers and the accountants and all the hangers on, they were all like parasites feeding off him, and all of his money was coming away. And she sorted that out, which I think was really good.
Yeah, okay. She handed it over to his daughter then, didn't she?
That's right. Yeah.
Got to a certain age. I can't remember what the age was. I read that the other day. I don't know how I even got into reading that. So, I remember reading that. It was it's sad, mind, isn't it? It is, because you assume that these superstars, they're okay and they got a lot of money, and they're going to be fine and all that.
I think it's a bit like Britney, who at the time of recording today, Britney's just found out that she's going to be getting out of this conservatorship, this thing where other people control all her affairs. And it's shocking to me that somebody like Britney in the modern age, they're saying that, that she's got personal wealth of 70 million. Now, I'm not saying 70 million isn't a lot. I'm sure all of us lot would happily take it. But when you're Britney Spears, you would think it would probably be in the hundreds of millions how big she is. Yeah, and that, to me, is probably the same. She's been in this conservativeship thing where she's locked away. And I'll bet you that the lawyers and all the people who've been, fighting the case and whatever, I bet you that estate, it probably did start at 100 odd million, but it's just whittled down and everyone's taking the share of the cake.
Yeah, well, she has to pay for her father's fees as well, doesn't she?
It's crazy.
Some weird, and that's almost $1 million, so...
Yeah.
Just for this time around. I mean, she's been fighting this for like 8 or 9 years, I think.
Yeah.
I was reading on something today. She's been fighting it for 8 or 9 years, or since 2010 maybe. And this conservatorship thing is she's got to pay both parties, which is like, how'd you work that out?
That's right. She's got to pay both sides.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
It's crazy. She's paying the people who are keeping her locked up.
Yeah, I know.
It's nuts. America is insane. Yeah. And then it's come out as well that, that she was like under 24-hour surveillance, even in her own bedroom and bathroom, like Big Brother.
Yeah.
A bit, but obviously 10 times worse.
So how did you enjoy Big Brother?
Well, Big Brother, I loved it. It was almost my dream to go on Big Brother, and I still think it's the best reality show of them all, because all the other, I'm sure you guys are savvy, all the other reality shows are actually they're either scripted, or if you do something in one of the other reality shows like Love Island, they'll actually stop the cameras and they'll say, "Oh, we didn't quite get that. Could you do it again?" So there is an element of acting almost in the other ones, whereas Big Brother is pure. They put you in this house, they lock the door. There is nothing in the house to distract you. There's not even a clock or a newspaper or a pencil. There's nothing except for the people that they've picked specifically to wind you up. So it's like 16 rats in a cage and get on with it. And they don't interfere. They do not interfere. And this is why you end up with if you look at all the great stories that have been all over the years, and the front page stories as well, that only comes from Big Brother. And that is why obviously it's not on in the UK anymore, but I think it's on something like 50 different TV territories. Still.
Yeah, it's on in Holland still. It was made in Holland, wasn't it? And now
that's right.
In Holland, so.
Endemol.
Yeah.
And I think in that, it's such a simple idea as well. But I think in that format, so much great things can come out of it, because it's essentially what we're doing now. It's just people chatting, and some of it might be boring. You might not be interested in it, but then you stumble onto something else, and it's really funny or it's really poignant. Or it can change attitudes as well.
Yeah.
You look at I think obviously you had the Shilpa Shetty thing that went on with the racism with Jade Goody, and then right at the end, you had Roxanne Pallett, when she was involved with Ryan from Coronation Street. If you don't know that story, this was the final ever series of Celebrity Big Brother. And there were an actress called Roxanne who was in Emmerdale for a while. She's probably best known for that. She was in, and then there was this other actor who was in from Coronation Street, and they were just messing around outside one day, and Ryan did this. You know, you do like play fighting, where you just sort of like shadow box a little bit, but you don't actually touch the person you're shadow boxing with, and it was all good natured. Both people were laughing and giggling about it. And then for some reason, Roxanne went straight to the diary room, but obviously all this had been filmed. She went straight to the diary room and said, essentially, I've just been attacked by Ryan. He's beat me up. It's really sore. You know, what are you going to do? Are you going to kick him out?
Oh, yeah, but it's all about keeping yourself in, isn't it?
Yeah, but clearly it could have ruined his career, because she was genuinely making out that he was he was beating a woman.
Yeah.
But thankfully for Ryan, it was all on camera. What had gone on. So you see elements like that you don't see on other shows. If that had happened on Love Island, I can guarantee you that the directors and editors would have said cut, and they said, right, let's just not talk about what went on there, and they would have joined up the other two pieces, and you would never have known about that little thing. So,
but Love Island's not really celebrities, is it?
Well, they are now. When you come out of Love Island now,
when you come out, or when you go in, you're not a celebrity.
No, not when you go in. But actually,
Dyer's daughter went in it, didn't?
Do you know what? It's changed. Yeah, you're right there, because the early series of Love Island, it was just ordinary people who were beautiful, and like gym bunny types who looked after themselves and what have you. But because it became such a big show, Love Island, you'll now find all the people that go in Love Island, even before they've been on the television once, they all have agents. They're all either the sons and daughters of somebody, like you just said, Danny Dyer, or they're connected in some way with TV. So yeah, for me, Love Island, it's more sort of set up. They more or less know, who the winners are going to be and who's going to get picked out first.
I know there was a scandal about. I don't watch it, but I know I follow the news sometimes. There was a big scandal about them sticking all the boys on steroids and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that? Yeah. Because they all got like good bodies and stuff, haven't they? So they whack them all on steroids before a few months before they go in.
Yeah, I don't think ITV
allegedly
do that. Yeah, ITV don't do that. But I think the guys, there's a good chance that they're doing that.
Yeah.
Or people around them, like management companies.
Yeah.
They would absolutely. This is honestly, people think this is the other thing as well about reality TV. They all think, because they only see it from the outside, they think, oh, it's great. It's like a big laugh, and you come out and you get a couple of $100,000, for having a week or 2 weeks in a villa, something like that. Honestly, you're being shortchanged at $200,000. Because when you come out, particularly if you haven't gone down well with the public, your life is hell. You were talking at the start about the bullying and that online. You have no idea the level, the volume of abuse. You would literally not be able to go. If you were somebody who the public didn't like, you would find it really hard to even open your phone. People saying all sorts about you. So, people, and especially when you're young as well, some of these kids are like, what are they, about 18, 19 when they go? I guess they must be 18. Imagine having all that shit.
It's got to disturb you, isn't it?
At their age. And I think this is why, we've had all these horrible, sad stories of people who've been in reality TV shows, and particularly Love Island, funnily enough, that have ended up either taking their life, or other issues around the show has led to them taking their life as well.
Yeah, they had a suicide not long ago, didn't they? Some young boy killed himself.
Yeah, they've had a few. I think that's probably Mike you're referring to. Yeah, they've had a few. And for me, to be honest, I know it's really popular and it's a massive cash cow for ITV. It's the biggest earner of the year. It earns more than I'm a Celebrity, in terms of people phoning in and all the endorsements they get for it.
Okay.
I think they should drop it. I really, really do. If you look at the people who have, whichever way you cut it up, the cake, people have lost their lives because of Love Island. Not just the contestants, obviously Caroline Flack, the presenter as well. And for me, there's something unseemly about carrying on with it when you've got that back catalogue. And I know people who've been on Love Island. These are young people who are encouraged to get off with other people.
Yeah, I know, and that's. I mean,
now what is the moral behind that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're only one step away from a porno film, in my mind. If you've got, a young girl, and she knows that her chances of staying on the telly depend on her having a relationship with somebody in that villa, and she might not like any of the guys. She might not like any of them. But she knows that the only way that she stays in is if she either sleeps with somebody or goes off and flirts with someone. Seriously? Is that really entertainment for the person inside? It's a bit sordid, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, I know David likes a bit of reality TV now and again, so it often comes up on this show, Dave.
I mean, imagine you two guys. I don't know. You might have daughters, but imagine imagine your daughter's in this year's Love Island, and she's in the situation where she doesn't like any of the 10 guys at all, but then she feels like she's got to go with one of them.
I know, it's awful, isn't it?
Yeah,
horrible.
My daughter's not going on Love Island. No, well, I'm alive anyway.
I'd be over there slitting throats.
Me and Dave would be doing a Rambo on him.
Good guys.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, you touched on it earlier about I'm a Celebrity, and that's probably the only one I watch these days. Because I used to watch all of them, like the old X Factors and Pop Idol, and I watched everything when they first came.
Yeah.
But the only one I can watch now really is I'm a Celebrity. So I was going to ask you, would you be interested in going on that?
Definitely. That's funny enough. That's the only one that I think I would do now, Dave. I'm not interested in doing any of the others. Strictly doesn't really appeal. So yeah, I think that's the best one. I think it's the best natured as well. I think people go on to have a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
It's fun. Whereas a lot of the other shows, maybe not actually strictly that they go on for a laugh as well, but all the other shows, it's all about, at the end of the day, it's quite gladiatorial. You're trying to do other people in and metaphorically slit their throats, to get one over them. And that doesn't appeal. I've been in, honestly, TV land is full of reptiles. There are so many people doing this type of work. I'm sure they've got like a psychopathic gene. Where they go like really cold?
Yeah.
And you would get so many people get stabbed in the back by people who actually smile to their faces, but then go behind. Horrible.
Yeah.
I just like people who are honest and upfront.
Well, Philip Schofield kept his job.
Well, I can't comment on that.
But were you one of the first ones voted out when you were on Big Brother?
I was first voted out.
Oh, the first one voted out.
Yeah, but I don't regret it because everything I did now, I think it was because I was sort of before my time really, and I don't think the public really understood what was going on. And when I was in as well, you had like two really strong characters, Anne Widdecombe and Rachel Johnson. Rachel is Boris Johnson's sister. And the rest of them were all really intimidated by them. So like Anne would say, Anne, who had never watched Big Brother before in her life, was saying at 10:30 at night, come on, everybody to bed. You know, I want to have a sleep, get to bed. But Big Brother isn't like that. Big Brother is like 24/7. You get it when you want. You know, people stay up till 4:00 in the morning having a chat about whatever over a drink. That's what Big Brother is. So I was quite happy to stand up and argue the toss with those two. And those two sort of corralled everybody else against me. But that's fine because I was independent. And the good thing was, when I was in, I was the longest stay for a first evictee. So normally they'll kick somebody out, the first evictee, you know, within a few days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're just like cannon fodder. So I hold the record because I was in for 2 weeks because they didn't want to kick me out because ratings were so good. And then as soon as I came out, the ratings dropped. So I'm quite happy with how I did. And when they came out, I was the only one that series to come out by myself and get an individual interview. And because of the backlog that it had created, because they only had so many weeks, you know, to run the series, everyone else had to come out in 2s and 3s.
Oh, okay.
To catch up. So I'm quite happy. It's about the impression you make.
Yeah.
That's it.
So when you said you started reporting then, when you were reporting, were you a reporter before you were a woman or were you a reporter after you were a woman? My terminology is really rubbish, I'm afraid, but
don't worry. I know what you mean, because obviously I've always been a woman. It's just people haven't known. That's that sort of thing.
Yeah, you've always felt like you were a woman, but before you transitioned into an actual
I always was. But I know exactly what you mean. So yeah, I was a reporter up in Carlisle for ITV Border, which is like the regional thing for Carlisle and Southwest Scotland. It was. So I did that for 10 years. And then towards the end of that 10 years, I just realized that I couldn't do it. I couldn't carry on living a lie anymore. But this was like, if you ever seen Life on Mars, you know, with Gene Hunt, which I loved. It's a great program. But basically what I'm saying is that newsrooms are very rough places. And, you know, there's lots of swearing and people just say things straight, which again, I love. But I was a realist. I looked around. And in 1999, if I'd have told people who I really was and what I was going to do, it would have been horrendous. So I came with the decision, right, what am I going to do here? And I didn't want to tell anyone because I was so terrified and frightened, you know, that my life would explode and I'd lose my family and friends and all that sort of thing. So I thought, what am I going to do? And I came up with this idea and I split my life in two. So I left TV, just walked away from it, even though I loved TV. I left it. I got an ordinary 9-to-5 job in Newcastle, where I worked Monday to Friday as Joanne. And then I came back to Carlisle, where my family was, on Saturday and Sunday. And my thinking behind that was, well, I'm keeping both camps happy. I can breathe being me. I'm alive and life is worth living. And then I can go back and I can keep this person alive, you know, for everyone else. Because when that person goes, obviously it upsets your family because they love that person. Even though you're not that person, they love that person. And
was
so
it
that
like
was really,
Mrs. Doubtfire or?
Well, it was like a real form of that,
It must have been so stressful at the time.
It was really tough.
Yeah.
It was really difficult. But it was the only way that I could see because I wasn't brave enough to tell them. But I did that for 5 years. And that was great. And I was in a situation, I had like 2 sets of friends, neither of which knew the other existed. I even had 2 passports because I played the forms in such a way. So I had 2 legitimate passports and different names. And yeah, that was interesting. But those 5 years were actually the most interesting thing was, guys, those 5 years when the trans word wasn't mentioned or anything were fantastic because I could just live my life. It was like normal. There wasn't, and I was quite happy. That was fantastic. But as soon as I decided, I thought, well, why have I had to give up my job? You know, I'm going to just tell people what's been going on because I know for sure this is who I am. So I did. And obviously that's when I started, national TV started paying attention. And I went on there. And then as soon as you get that T word attached to you, then your life just becomes hell.
Was that when you were pre-op or post-op? When you were Joanne and whatever your other name was, Kevin? Or...
Well, I was pre-op at that stage. But when towards the end, the last few weeks, that was interesting as well. Because obviously they didn't know. I was working in an office. And when it just got too much, I went in to see the boss. And I said, I'm leaving. Because this was the point, you know, when I was just going to do it. And he said, well, why are you waiting? And I told him that I was trans and that what I'd been doing. And he fell off his chair.
Okay.
At the time. So, yeah, I hadn't had any surgery then. But more or less my last few weeks at the ambulance service, that's when I transitioned fully, if you like.
Yeah. So you were going through all that transitioning process then, if you like, while you were masquerading as a woman and a man to your family. That must be, like David said, that must have been pretty stressful, to be honest. Yeah,
it was, because you've got to remember two different accounts of where you've been and what you do.
Yeah. And did you change your voice a little bit when you went from one to the other?
Yeah, absolutely. All of that.
That's pretty mad, isn't it?
You said that was a good time. I would have been so stressed out. I would have been really, really stressed out.
Yeah, but honestly, the Monday to Friday bit was like, honestly, it was like, it's hard to explain to people who've not been in that situation where you've spent your whole life, you know, pretending to be somebody else. It's like holding that bit is like holding your breath. And then when you actually get to be yourself and just do normal stuff, it's like, honestly, I've never taken drugs or anything, but I should imagine it was like, it was just such a weight off my shoulders. It was just so nice and relaxed, you know, just to be me.
Yeah.
So it was worth it for that.
How did your family react when you did speak to them about it finally?
Well, my mum, and I think this applies to all people like me, you know, it comes as a shock to people on the outside because you've known all your life, but to somebody on the outside, it's a bolt from the blue. And it's not like when, you know, I wasn't a camp kid or anything like that. I did like normal boy stuff. Like I said, you know, I played football, in those days, everyone was in a gang. Not the sort of gangs you have now, but you know, like the gang of lads and that round the area where you live.
Yeah.
Did normal stuff. So there was nobody would have thought that I would have done this. And to be honest, I wouldn't have thought at the time, because when I was growing up, I can remember as a kid going to bed every night and saying a prayer, wishing that when I wake up, everything would be right and it would all be in a bad dream and I would be right in my thing. But obviously that never happened. So you get to an age of about 8 or 9 and you think, it's not going to change. It's not going to change. This is where it sits. So you start almost like a Stockholm syndrome scenario where you start to sort of accept it and you think, well, just make the best of it as you can, which I did, you know, for as long as I can. And I put that sort of part of me, although it was always there, in a box. Even though I was aware of it every single day of my life, I thought I had it under control. But it just builds up. It builds up. And eventually, towards the end, when I was ITV, it was just going through life, doing normal stuff like getting up and all that. I couldn't do it anymore because I think, what's the point? I'm literally playing a role. I may as well have been in, I don't know if you've seen a film called The Truman Show.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen it, but I know what it is.
That's what it felt like. It felt like it was just, everything around me felt fake because it wasn't, I was like doing this performance every day as this person who people thought I was, but I wasn't. And I completely lost interest in life. And that's obviously when I decided, right, I can't do this anymore. So I split my life in two.
Did you do the old I'm a man and have a family thing, and then like become, you know, the other version of you, like a few other celebrities have done that they're in the spot? I mean, a lot of people have done it, but there's a few celebrities that have come out, you know, that have had wives and children. And did you do that? Did you go down that route as well?
Yeah,
you know, as a man, did you have a wife or a girlfriend and a couple of kids? Or
yeah, I did get married, and you know, we had a kid. But again, at the time, I thought I had it under control. I thought, well, if you'd have said at the time, would I ever transition? I said, no, absolutely not, because I had it under control. But like I say, these things, it's the old adage, isn't it? That, you know, you can't run away from yourself.
Yeah.
And you can do your best. It literally exhausted me, guys. Honestly, if you'd have said to me at the time, here's a magic pill, it will take away all of the, you know, the girl side of you, and you'll just be a normal boy or a normal guy.
Yeah.
I'd have snapped your hand off. I'd have loved that. That would have been fine. But you just can't do that. And it's because, I mean, I could bore you to death. There's loads of interesting facts. It's like, I don't know if you know that when we're born, for the first 6 weeks or so in the embryo, we're all female. So even looking at used to now, you've both had a sex change.
Yeah, I know that. I know all that. Yeah.
Because and that's why you've got nipples. Because at the end of the day, a human being is basically, there's a default body, and then you pour the petrol in, and it all depends whether it's testosterone or estrogen, and it's how sensitive you are. You have these things in your head called androgen receptors. They're like little aerials that pick up the signals, but sometimes your androgen receptors don't actually work. You know, they don't get triggered by the thing. So all these factors come into play and determine how you develop. And the brain develops at a different stage as the body. And that's what the thinking is behind trans people. When they've done studies on people who've died who've been trans, you know, they've looked at like slides. They take these slices of the brain and put them under a microscope, and the areas of development are more in line with, you know, the sex and the gender that they identify with than the ones they didn't. And that's why you have this mismatch. If you like, I suppose the easiest way to describe it is, if you look at the brain is like the mainframe of who you are. Yeah. You know, that's who you are.
Yeah.
I'm just a caveman. So it's
not. Yeah. in terms of your body, it's not your actual anatomy, because you could take a man or a woman, and you could, in a very macabre horror film sort of way, if you kept them alive like Hannibal Lecter did, while he chopped them to bits.
Some brain up. Yeah.
And he removed body parts, and he said, and what are you now? Are you a man or a woman? And what are you now, a man or a woman? You would carry on saying what you were, oblivious to what had been removed below, because that is who
that's who
you are.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a really difficult thing to get across to people, because it's, and I get that, because it's so abstract and unusual for most folk.
But I've seen some stuff on TV. Well, I've been watching stuff on the internet actually about you today, and you're quite outspoken about some different things. And I saw one interview with some guy. I can't fucking call him a guy. He was a girl. I think I don't know if he was post-op, but they were talking about gender-neutral changing rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying that the terminology of being gender-neutral sort of takes away part of the identity from you, from being a transsexual.
Yeah, well, it does. And this war just depresses me at the moment, because there are some horrible people out there making trans people miserable. We're like 0.5% of the population. But if you read the British press, you would think we were like a disease, a plague, and we were all over the place and we were all sex pests and predators. But I think the mistake that they've made on that side, to me, you have two camps. So you have haters who are just like bigots and just like horrible people, and they just hate trans people, whatever. You could be like the nicest person in the world, they're going to hate you because of who you are. But then on this side, you obviously have the LGBT school of saying, and I think they've made a mistake. I think they stretched the definition of trans, because trans didn't really exist as a word as it does now.
Well, it was transvestite, wasn't it? I mean, that's probably the oldest trans word.
And everybody knew what that was. You know, transvestites didn't transition. It was it was like comparing a chiropractor to a chiropodist. They sound the same, but they're completely different things.
It's in both camps. I mean, it's a guy that dresses up in girls' clothes, or it's even a girl that dresses up in boys' clothes. You know, they're both actually transvestites.
Which ones?
Both of them. If a guy dresses up as a woman, I mean, I used to work with a guy who was a transvestite. He dressed up as a woman on the weekends or whatever. He was in Salvation Army, and then he liked to dress up as a woman, and he'd go to the cinema with his wife. But he was actually then a transvestite. Yeah. But when girls wear men's clothes, people don't see them as transvestites, but they are actually transvestites. Right. You know.
That's right. That's right.
But the society just doesn't look at the girl in the suit. The society only looks at the man in the dress as a weirdo. You know what I mean?
That's right. But the point I was making was that transvestite is very, very, very different from somebody who actually transitions.
I know that. Yeah.
A transvestite is very happy being a guy. They're just dressing up for kicks or wherever like that. Yeah. So unfortunately, LGB decided for whatever reason to scrunch those two groups together, which just makes it really confusing, for people to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, again, the gender neutral came in. But to be honest, guys, things have got so bad at the moment, and there is so much hate and misinformation and such a campaign against. I've sort of softened my stance on this, because at the end of the day, I don't want anyone having like a really bad time, just because of who they are. And I don't know how many people are actually gender non-binary or wherever like that. But as long as they don't bother me in my life.
Well, I don't really get it. I mean, do you know what it is? It's like it's back to the old UK terminology from the 60s and 70s where what was it? I'll probably fuck it up, but it was like we're British, no sex please, or something like that. It was that sort of old terminology. I mean, I live in Holland now. I've been living in Holland for like 20 odd years. And if you go to C&A, it's a shop that sells men's clothes, women's clothes, kids' clothes. But the dressing rooms are not divided for men and women. They're just dressing rooms. And
right.
This was the point that person was making when you were like sat next to her.
Yeah.
Saying, and your point was, well, the guy went into Top Man and he had 6 weeks worth of growth of beard. And
that's right. Well, that's ridiculous.
But over in Holland, we're so liberal. I mean, you can even go to the swimming pool and they've got multi-sex changing rooms. So you can take your kids in there and get changed. And Mrs. Jones from down the street is also in there getting changed. It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's accepted with an open mind. It's not.
Yeah. I think Holland's a good country for that, isn't it? I've only ever been once, but the attitude, I think Dutch people are a lot cooler. They're a lot more chilled and relaxed about all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's no. I mean, I used to go to the pub every Saturday, and there'd be a guy dancing around in a dress, and everybody knew him, Yeah. I don't think he was gay. I think he just liked dressing up in a dress, and it was like, well, there was no stigma to it. There's nobody like. It's just like, oh, so and so's in. He's over there.
Yeah.
And Holland is that liberal. It's like a free country. But yeah, I mean, some of the things. But I saw another interview with about prepubescent children given anti-hormone treatment, if you like.
Yeah, it's not anti-hormone.
It's puberty blockers.
Puberty blockers, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I'm fine with that, because how old were you when you knew you were a boy? You probably
14.
can't even remember, because
14.
14. But you'll have known at the same time as a trans kid. You'll have known at around 3 or 4 that you were a boy.
I don't know. I mean, I can't remember that long ago, but I mean, I'm the same age as you almost. But
well, I think people who haven't been through it aren't aware, because it's not in conflict. So you've always been a boy, as it were. I'd be surprised if you've ever questioned it. Whereas obviously trans kids know it, and there's this idea that kids are like rushed through and it's like a fast track. Honestly, it's not like that.
No, I mean, I've got a sister, and her daughter was going through a transgender period of her life, I guess. And she always said that she thought she was a boy. And I mean, I had a discussion with my sister about it, because they were going to put her on these, what do you call it?
Puberty blockers.
Yeah, puberty blockers.
I mean, like a pause button. Yeah.
But I don't. I mean, I spoke about this with my girlfriend earlier. I don't really get. I think, for me personally, I've never been in this situation, but I think as you go through puberty, then that's when you really find out who you are. You know.
Well,
and obviously because the hormones develop in your body at a accelerated rate through those few years between 12 and 16, say.
But your puberty is about your sexuality, isn't it? It's not about whether you're a boy or a girl. You don't know,
but I mean, you grow your facial hair, pubic hair, and all sorts of stuff, and you know.
Yeah, but it's not about it's not about what's in your brain. It's about what comes out, isn't it?
Puberty is about who you're sexually attracted to, and how you develop. But it doesn't change who you are. If that was the case, I mean, if you're saying that you've got to wait until you go through puberty to know whether you're a boy or a girl, then that should apply to everyone, then, shouldn't it?
Well,
or is it just trans kids?
No, it's not. No, it's for everybody.
So nobody can identify as a boy or a girl until they're 18.
No, you identify as a boy or a girl when you're born, because you either have a penis or a vagina, don't you? I mean, your parents identify you as a boy or a girl. They don't say, "Oh, this is a." I mean, even that some parents are now doing it, saying this is a non-binary person, even though it's like a boy or a girl. But you're physically given that stamp because of your physical development. It's not because of your brain development, because your brain development doesn't know what you are until you're probably 3 or 4 years old. I mean, my daughter probably doesn't even know what love is until she becomes about 9. You know.
Yeah.
It's not a case of like your daughter's born, she automatically loves you. Your daughter's born, and then these things grow. You know what I mean?
I think there's a lot of confusion. I think a lot of people still get sexuality mixed up with who you are, and they think it's one and the same. And I think that's probably because T is part of LGBT, and everyone thinks that your sexuality is going to change. It might change who you think you are, but it doesn't really, because there are trans people who are straight, there are trans people who are gay, there are trans people who are bi. The sexuality side of things has literally got nothing to do with who you are. And if you've monitored a kid like the doctors do, for normally it's around 10 years or wherever, or it can be that long, and the doctors aren't stupid. They monitor the kids and they have them in and they talk about how they feel. But if you spend 10 years saying you're a boy, or you say you're a girl, and you don't want to go through a particular puberty because that's going to make you 6'3", built like a rugby player, and your life is going to be really hard, and you're not going to change your mind because of who you are, why would you put a kid through that? It's more for your benefit, isn't it? Thinking almost like it's going to be a cure.
Please I don't know. I mean, I'm no expert. I don't know. I just we're all entitled to an opinion, obviously. But I just don't, obviously, because I don't understand a lot of it, you know. But for me, I would say let a person grow up to be an adult, and then they can make their own mind up. Yeah,
but what about But why? So
yeah. I mean, I can understand the argument where it could be too late for that person, you know.
But
I just don't know.
I think the important thing is there. What you're saying on that, you're saying that trans kids, apart from all the other kids, trans kids have to wait until they're 18 to be who they are. All I'm saying to you is that trans kids have the same mental capacity as
I
any
know
other
that.
kids.
I'm not disputing that. I'm not saying, this kid's different to any other kid. And I understand where you're coming from. Where you really thought that you were a woman in a girl in a boy's body all your life, if you like.
Yeah.
But did you? I mean, you didn't transition until later on in your life, I guess.
No.
Fully transition, I mean, so you're post-op and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but do you think going through puberty changed that in any way?
Not at all.
Okay, so why wouldn't you just let kids go through? Because it could change some kids,
No, well, we keep coming back to this. What?
Yeah, but that's a sexuality thing again.
That's the sexuality, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, like, you're a man, but you could be a straight man. You could be a gay guy.
Yeah.
You could be a bi guy, but you're still a man.
Yeah.
And when you went through puberty,
I became a man.
No, but you always knew. You never deviated, did you?
Well, you don't know, do you? I mean, kids always experiment when they're kids. Really. I mean, I didn't, but I didn't go around kissing my best friend.
What it is, there's two separate things. So you've got gender and then you've got sexuality.
Correct.
I understand.
I
understand that.
Yeah. So whatever your gender is when you're born, that's what your gender is.
That's who you are.
What your sexuality is.
Okay.
So
what about these gender neutral people and gender fluid people then?
Well, I don't know. I'm not one of them. You would have to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had a kid on a few weeks ago who was actually gender fluid.
Yeah.
So today he could be Tom and tomorrow he could be Tina, but
he had loads of bullying as well, didn't he? So
yeah.
And he had, I think the lead singer, they were a couple, weren't they?
Yeah, they're engaged. Yeah. So he's not gay. I mean, they're both straight. They're a straight couple.
Yeah.
But he likes dressing up as a woman, and
yeah.
But he classifies himself as gender fluid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think there's some disparity in that? Isn't he just a transvestite? As a straight guy that likes dressing up as a woman?
Yeah, I don't know, because it's not my experience. I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah. It's a fascinating thing, and it could go on forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
It's a bit like religion, if you like. You're never going to get to the bottom of it, are you?
Oh, well, science is getting to the bottom of it. Like I say, they've done the studies, and they more or less know now what causes it. So yeah, I'm hopeful that they will have cast iron proof quite soon. There's been lots of studies, 2 recent studies in Spain and Holland, funnily enough, when they've looked at the brains and the development and what have you, and it all makes sense. If everyone starts as the same sex, we've got the same bodies, we've got the same pathways in us.
Yeah.
It's just a case of what you're exposed to and your ability, how sensitive you are to what you're exposed to. If you take the other way around, if you look at a lot of the trans guys, when they take testosterone, they look like you. Really
I know.
They look like you.
I can't call him a friend really, but I've known him for a long time. He's a singer in a band, and he used to be a girl, and when he was like 15 or 16, he obviously started to transition. And now he's a fully blown boy. I mean, he's had his boobs off, and he's having an operation for whatever they do down below. I don't know what they do, to be honest, but he's got a beard and everything, And he's to be honest, he's a really handsome kid as well.
Yeah.
He must have all the girls after him.
I think at the end of the day, if you do any of that, it's your business. And if you're happy and you're living a normal life, then why is it a big concern of society?
Yeah.
There's
no business of anybody else, really.
Yeah.
And then we go back to the bullying,
happy. Yeah.
Yeah, and we go right back to this cancel culture thing. I mean, who's to say, what I can and can't say, to be honest. I mean, it's the same for yourself. Who's to say who you can or can't be?
Yeah.
Who has that right to cancel anything, really. I mean, we are the same age roughly. I mean, I think I'm a year younger than you. I was born in 1966.
You look about 20 years older, though.
Yeah, well, hey, Dave, actually, if I shave my beard off and use a bit of moisturiser, I look pretty good. You know, but we grew up in a generation, if you like, of the 70s. We became young adults in the late 70s and early 80s, where you could say whatever you wanted, and people wouldn't really get offended, you know. And then all of a sudden, people like Mary Whitehouse started popping up saying, "Oh, you're not allowed to say this, and you're not allowed to say that. You know, you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to show your boobs on the telly."
Actually, my views on this have changed a little bit. I used to be very much in your school of thought, but they have changed a little bit. You know, when you just said there in the 70s, you used to be able to say more or less whatever you liked and nobody got upset or offended about it. I think they did. I mean, I remember back in the 70s, you know, packy was a word that was just bandied about. Nobody thought anything about it. Even the N word, I can remember. And again, it wasn't a big deal. There was no social taboo. And in my circle of friends, and maybe in your circle of friends, nobody took offence at it. Yeah, but I'll bet the Indian or the black person took offence if they heard of it. And I think it's just that change. I'm all for, honestly, guys, I like having a debate and I like discussing anything. I think the danger is now, and social media plays a big part of this, because everyone thinks they're the big I am and that they can say what they like with no consequence because of this free speech bandwagon. I absolutely support free speech. But there has to be like a line on, if you had absolute free speech, like literally you could say anything, then you could say the N word. You could say, well, I believe you are a N whatever. But we wouldn't tolerate that.
It's all about context.
Yeah.
Isn't it? You know, I was talking to David earlier, and it's all about context. It's how you put those things when you were growing up in the 70s and 80s like myself. It's all about context, you know. You never said it as a hate word. You know, maybe you had black friends. I mean, I've got black friends yet, and the word it's not nigger, but the actual word nigger is what they call each other. Or white people call black people call white people, and homo, and everything in Holland's pretty much acceptable, you know. And it's all about context. It's not about, oh, I hate you, you black bastard or whatever. It's all about context, and it's how you say things and who you say them to. I mean, if it's your friend for 20 years and you call him such and such, you know, in jest, he's not going to take offence. But somebody who's standing on the other side of the fence, listening in on your conversation, says, "Oh, you're not allowed to say that," you know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell. So I think sometimes people can call you names as well, especially if you're friends with them, and if they call you a name, sometimes you do smile, and to them, again, on the outside, it might look like they haven't paid any notice, but they might be bothered. So I've sort of changed my attitude on that. I'm all for free speech, and I'm all for people having a say and what have you. But I think it's all about, and I think we all agree on this at the end of the day anyway. It's about just having respect.
Yeah.
For other people. As long as you're not doing something that you know is going to cause pain or upset to the other individual, then I think that's fine.
Yeah, I agree. So, but going back, we'll stop. We were having a nice conversation until all this started. That's my fault.
That's all right. Good content.
One question I wanted to ask you was, how do you think it's affected your career being trans? Do you think it's hindered you in any way, or do you think it's been an advantage in any way?
Well, that's a really astute question as well. I've just been talking about that today to one of my friends. Well, initially, before all this gender war kicked off, when I first came to prominence, it was great. It was fantastic because I went on and nobody had a problem.
All right, go on, ask a question.
Yeah, so the question I got for you is with regards to your career, you'd have it, man. This is going to be a great edit. Don't worry, Tez. Great. So with regards to career, do you think there was any hindrance, or do you think it gave you a boost being trans?
Really
I hate
good
that
question.
word, trans. Say trans.
It's
again.
horrible. I know. Well, I don't use any, to be honest,
Okay.
guys. I use it in the context. If we're talking about the
Yeah,
subject,
yeah.
I use it. But
In the context
I'm
of the
just
question,
a
say
woman.
transgender, not trans.
I'm just a woman. When I go in the shop, when I go about my life in the deli, nobody ever calls me that. It never crops up whatsoever. And I've started pulling people up on it. You know, I had Dan Wootton a month or so ago introduced me as trans reporter India Willoughby, and I said, "Well, thank you very much, gay presenter Dan Wootton," which is true. Why do I get a prefix?
Exactly. Yeah.
And nobody else. I don't. If this was my podcast, I wouldn't be saying I'm on with these two straight guys.
Well, are we straight? Don't know, do you?
Well, I don't know. do you know what I mean? So, stick all the prefixes in the bin. But to back to the question, initially, it was a good thing because there was none of this animosity or toxicity around trans whatsoever. So when I was doing like Loose Women or reading the news or anything, it was all very positive, and there wasn't anything bad about it whatsoever. But then the radical feminists and the right wing and hardliners and religious groups from America got involved, and it all became really nasty. And then now it's become toxic. Trans people cannot get employed.
No way.
Name me one trans reporter or presenter or anyone in the media. There is
RuPaul.
nobody.
Oh, not the media.
RuPaul's not trans, though, is he? He's gay. He's a gay man.
He's trans, isn't he? Fucking
no.
Trans. Is he a transsexual or not?
No.
Then he's a transvestite.
No.
He is. He dresses up as a woman.
He's a gay man who does drag.
Oh, right. Oh, so is there a difference between transvestites?
Oh, yeah, honestly.
Oh, brother.
Honestly, right. You know the LGB bit?
Yeah,
it's completely different. It's got literally nothing to do with T. Nothing.
Why is it on the end then?
Well, a lot of people ask this question. LGBs are sexuality, so that's who you want to sleep with or attracted to or wherever like that. T is just who you are. I think they've stuck it there because there's strength in numbers, and it's like we're so small. We are like 0.5% of the population. But like I said earlier on, you can have straight trans people, gay trans, bi, like any section of the population. They can be anything, but they're not the same as RuPaul is most definitely 100% a gay guy. He does not want to transition. He's a gay man who does drag, which is just like showbiz. He dresses up for an hour or so,
like Dame Edna.
like Dame Edna. So if you look around, there are no trans people. There are no trans MPs. We have literally nothing, which is tough because people, as is evidence, and I know you guys are good guys and everything, but it's evidenced every time I chat to people how little people still, even in 2021, and this is across the board, how little people actually understand or how confused they get about it. And that comes down to the fact
the LGBs are chucking the T's on the end.
Well, it comes out of the fact that there are no trans people in public life who are explaining. Again, if you go back to the 70s analogy, there probably weren't a lot of black people in prominent roles or gay people for that matter. Yeah. So everyone had assumptions.
Larry Grayson?
Yeah, but that again, see, Larry Grayson was very much like a caricature, wasn't he? He was he's almost like a cartoon figure of what a gay man would be. Same as, what was he on Are You Being Served? John Inman.
Yeah.
Oh, John Inman, Julian
John
Clary.
Inman. So very camp. But obviously you get a lot of gay guys who you would never guess they were gay. They're completely
one of them
normal.
played rugby for Wales.
Yeah, they're not camp. They have like a manly voice.
Yeah.
They move in a very manly. You would never guess. But in the 70s, all gay men that you saw on TV had to be Ducky, didn't they?
Yeah.
So I think that's that's what's holding trans back. Trans just aren't included in society.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So getting back to your career then, do you think, because you said in the beginning it was great, but
It's a hindrance now, 100%.
Now it's a
hindrance to you now, yeah?
100%, because there's so much toxicity around it and everyone's angry, and all you read about is like trans people as sex predators or a threat to society, or they want to go down to the women's toilets and beat women up. These are literally the only stories you hear. You never read a positive trans story, and that has made employers, not just in my industry, in TV, this is across the board. People say, I just don't want to get involved. And it's like being a leper, to be honest, at society. It's the worst I've ever known it, ever. We've actually gone backwards. Everyone else is going forwards. Trans.
Yeah, I saw one YouTube clip earlier with a woman called Posey Parker. I mean,
she's horrendous.
She's obviously, I can't say the word. It's not. She's obviously sexist, I would say. She must be very sexist for women. I mean, I know she put that billboard up and it said definition of a woman is
can I just explain that?
Female.
Can I just explain that as well? Because I think a lot of people don't understand why trans people get upset. So again, I'm going to use an analogy that everyone can identify with. So if I had a banana, and there's nothing wrong with a banana, it's completely innocent. What is wrong with a banana? And I waved it in your face.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think anything of it.
Well, I would. I think you're waving a banana in my face.
Well, you would think that. But if you were a black man.
Yeah.
And I waved that banana in your face. And I'd made, say, Twitter videos about immigration and black people are taking all the jobs and all that sort of thing. And then I waved an innocent banana in your face. You would, as a black man, you would get mad. You would know what that meant. And that's what it is with the adult human female. This is a woman who, as far as I'm concerned, is a neo-Nazi, the people that she associates with, extreme right-wing groups in America that she flies. I don't know if you've seen the video when she flies over to America.
No.
To pounce on that woman who's trans, literally sitting in her office, and she barges in dressed like something from the SAS. It's just great. It's like an ISIS video. It's horrible. Anyone with a heart, it's just vile. But anyway, that's what she does. And I don't know where she gets the money, whether it's from religious groups, I don't know. But she seems to be doing very well out of the hate that she does. But yeah, so back to the T-shirt thing. So that was the banana. So the reason that trans people get upset about adult human female woman is because it's coming from Posey Parker. She makes
That's exactly what I said.
And
That's exactly what I said to David. I said it's not about the sign itself because it's obviously come from the dictionary.
Yeah.
It's actually about the person that's posting the sign.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's exactly what I said to David earlier. Yeah.
And you're spot on. And you can weaponize. It's weaponized.
Yeah.
They're normal words, exactly as you say there. Nobody has a problem with the words.
Yeah.
But they become weaponized when they're used by certain people. It's the same with what was the guy, that Nick Griffin, you know, who was it the National Front or the BNP?
BNP.
One of the two.
Is that not guy who had the milk? That's Tommy Knockers.
Tommy Sheridan. Well, Tommy Sheridan would be another good example. So if you had Nick Griffin or Tommy Sheridan walking around with a T-shirt on that just had a monkey's face, there's
and
a
then
world
again,
of
you go back to context.
Well, you go back to context. I was just going to say, because if you were wearing that monkey T-shirt and walked down the street, nobody would think of it. They would just think it was a cartoon T-shirt.
Yeah.
But if it's Tommy Robinson or Nick Griffin, or if it was the 40s, if it was Edward Mosley or somebody like one of these guys, then it takes on a completely different meaning. And I think that goes above a lot of people's heads. They're looking at adult human female and thinking, what are they getting freaked out about? They don't understand the context.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly what I said to David. It's not about the poster. It's about the woman that's putting the fucking poster up.
Correct.
Because she was a rotten human being, to be honest. I thought Eamon did really well in that interview.
Yeah, he did. He did. And
He was good.
Thank God on the back of that. I mean, the response that day against her, Britain turned on her and then ripped her to shreds, on social media.
So they should.
And she sort of hung herself, really.
Yeah. She's disgusting. She's a foul person.
This is just a horrible, horrible individual.
Yeah. I mean, some I wouldn't say it made sense, but some things she had an argument for. I mean, obviously the word woman is a adult female or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's correct. You can't deny that, But yeah, the whole context that she was put in and the situation she put herself in. I mean, the things she said to you was just like, what the fuck is she on about,
Well, what is she on about? Because
exactly,
I'm an adult human female. All my records, I've got my female anatomy, everything. I'm female.
Yeah. Oh, you're not. Yeah. Well, okay. You can't have any children, but
But when I go to Tesco's, I've never been asked.
Can you have children?
Can you drop a baby just to prove who you are, or can you have a period on a day-to-day basis?
Well, you're too old for that now.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. It just doesn't crop up. It's like all of this stuff that they go on about. It is all rooted in bigotry, because sometimes they'll go on about chromosomes, but they don't realise that 10% of the population are walking around now, like normal people, I'm on about people who aren't trans, are walking around with 3 chromosomes or 4 chromosomes. And sometimes they've got the wrong chromosomes, but they've still developed the wrong way. As I say, what goes on when you're being born is like really complicated.
Yeah, it is.
And it's not as simple as people actually think. And the other thing is, if we do get to a day with science where, let's say, there's like a Doctor Who machine and you can go in and it will change every molecule, every atom in you to the perfect female or male, if you go on the other way, the perfect thing. This still won't be enough for people like Posey Parker.
I know, that's for sure.
They will move the goalposts again.
Yeah.
And it will be, now it's, you've got to be actually born. You've actually got to come sticking your head out. It's at that point. That's what you are. So these people, they're just ideologically opposed to trans people. There is nothing trans people can do to satisfy the likes of Posey Parker.
Yeah. Would you rather be called genetically modified? I was thinking about this earlier on, and I just get these weird thoughts in my mind.
No, because I understand. Having gone through it, I understand it, and apart from the internal organs, I'm female. I'm very happy. The first part of my life, that was and it was torture. It's on your brain every day, thinking about it. Literally every day of my life for like 40 odd years. Horrible. And then I transitioned, and it completely, like somebody flicked a switch.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, instead of having this label of being a transsexual, would you rather be called a genetically modified person?
Well,
you know what I mean?
A woman. I don't get.
Yeah, I know you're a woman now. You like to be called, and you like to. You think yourself as a woman, and you like to be known as a woman. In all forms, you are a woman. I mean, mentally you're a woman. Physically, you're now a woman. But instead of having this crappy label of being a transgender, isn't there something else that we could come up with?
Well,
no
label.
Why do you need?
No label. Yeah, I mean, no label is
exactly.
Perfect.
Why not just stick all the labels in the bin?
Yeah. I mean,
See, to me, this is what I said at the start about the government, who are, in my opinion, are deliberately, pitching all sorts of groups against each other for their own reasons, because it's a distraction for how
crap
bad they've been. Thing. And you can do that if you start putting labels on people, saying, well, these people are that and you're this. But then they can pitch.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote that down as well. It's all about putting labels on people. I said that to my girlfriend earlier. I mean, why do people have to have labels? It's like
and this is what's causing the big friction within trans at the moment, these people like Posey Parker are trying to paint. Let's not beat about the bush. They're trying to create the image in the public's mind that we're just normal guys.
Yeah.
And they will use like statistics compiled about violent men.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean,
and say this is what will happen if you let trans people in. This is what will. Whoa, hold on a sec. It's a completely different demographic.
Yeah,
completely. But it's that sort of smear that they use, and that's why it makes really think. So I would just chuck all labels in the bin. My life would be misery. My life would not be worth living if I lived in a world where, look at me, and I had to go around and use the gents or be treated like a guy.
Yeah.
I was like, I put on your post the other day. I mean, what was that thing about men using toilets or women using? You put a post on your Twitter the other day, and I said, well, why not just take urinals out of all toilets and then everyone can use the same toilet?
Yeah, well, you
it's
could do that.
Different, is it?
But again, I think
my girlfriend doesn't agree with it because she thinks men are dirty bastards and they piss all over the pot.
Well, I agree with that.
I got to disagree with that. Women's toilets. I went to a festival a month ago, and my missus reckoned the toilets were disgusting, and the ladies and the gents were beautiful.
But that was at a festival. But no, I would keep the ladies and the gents.
You keep the ladies and the gents?
Yeah, I'd keep that. I wouldn't have to gender neutral.
Oh, okay.
Personally,
it's inconvenient, isn't it? Because if you can fit a lot more urinals than traps. It would just be, it'd be no good. That's why when we go and watch the rugby, the ladies ended up having to use the gents because there's just not enough toilets for the ladies. So you stood there at your idol, and all the women are queued up watching whether you wash your hands or not afterwards.
Or if you piss on the floor, Dave.
Well, or the sink or whatever. Yeah. But we've got off track a bit now, haven't we?
Well, the going off track's better, isn't it? It's more of a laugh.
Yeah, that's it.
You know what I mean? So, you got any more questions, Dave?
Yeah, it's obviously a very serious,
a long time, but...
very serious question, and that's kind of like, what sort of advice have you got for people that are feeling, they're kind of like in the wrong body? What should they do? Is there help out there that they can seek?
Well, definitely be yourself. I think you can't put a price on that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say it's easy because it's really tough. And it's not the being trans that is hard. That's a doddle. That's it. It's how people react to you around. Because a lot of trans people are in situations where they may not pass, as in, assimilate that well through no fault of their own, just because they've been through largely a puberty that they didn't want. They've grown really big and they don't fit the parameters necessarily of what a typical person of that sex looks like. So for them, life is hard because they're literally getting on the bus every day. Even if they don't see it all, they're being laughed at, sniggered, called names. That is a horrible life. And whoever you are, living a life like that is going to wear you down. It's going to depress you. It's really, really tough. But if everyone would get their shit together and just be more
on with their own lives,
yeah, it would make the lives of trans people really a lot easier. Because we're harmless. We're no more, like I say, we're no more likely to do something bad than any other demographic of the population. And if we're like 0.5%, I'm guessing the critics don't presume that all that 0.5% are bad. You're probably talking about 0.1 or even less. So I think you should definitely be yourself, come what may. There's an organisation called Mermaids, especially for the young kids who've been smeared terribly in the press because the press is unfortunately exclusively negative about trans, but they're really good. And I know the woman who runs that, she's got a a daughter who's trans. Her daughter's actually left. She's moved out of the UK now because it's become so hostile. And she lives in Australia, the daughter. But that's a really good resource. And just be yourself. You know, there are good people out there. And I would say this, I'm sure gay people in the 80s, their lives were made a misery and they thought, this is hellish, how am I going to get through it? Eventually, trans people will be accepted. It's just a shame that we've got to go through this probably 10 years or so where we're treated like crap and all the religious lot are in a snidey, sneaky sort of way. They're badging themselves up as other organizations, but it is the religious right in America. You know, they're attacking trans people and they're demonizing them. There was just very quickly in 2019, there's this big event in America. It's called Voters' Values. Okay. And it's where a lot of the religious groups and the more hard right groups get together, and it's like a big festival. It was the event where Donald Trump turned up and he had his Bible and he had all these religious guys around him. And he was making the big speech about how he was a good Christian and all this sort of thing. And at that conference, one of the leading figures stood up and said, being gay, being lesbian is still a sin. You know, we don't condone it, but we can't get to those people anymore because they now have public support and they have laws protecting them. But the weak link in the chain and the hardest sell is trans.
Right.
That's who we should focus our attention on, and that's who we should attack, because if you break that off, then you have a better chance of breaking the other ones off. And since that time, that's when all the money's come in, and all these things you see and you read, it is all very, very coordinated and big time what's going on. And we are basically powerless at the moment. We've just got to sit through it.
Yeah, shocking, isn't it?
Terrible.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's just unbelievable that we live in 2021 and people still have these values, but, you know.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Crazy.
All right then. Well, we've kept you for a long time. I didn't think it would go on this long, actually.
Well, you've got.
But we did have a break half time.
Yeah.
If I was
people
there,
will never know. The continuity in my mug was perfect. So it'd be fine.
Perfect.
Right.
If I was there, we could have gone out for a beer or something.
Yeah, that's it. My mum's a big fan. She loves loose women, so I told her to come on, so she was well excited.
Oh,
so,
that's good.
Yeah, so she'll definitely watch this one, because I got to be careful which one she's allowed to watch because of some of the topics we get into in it.
Right.
Well, no, it's because of me. It is, and my swearing usually. I try not to swear, but sometimes I get carried away, and then.
It's passionate about it as well, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So it's
but it's not only that. It's mean. I mean,
it's me.
I'm not the most intellectual human being on the planet. You know, I'm quite happy to say that. You know.
Well, you did call yourself a caveman earlier on. Didn't you?
I did, yeah. That's my chromosome.
Funny.
So before we go, then I watched some clips with you earlier on YouTube and stuff, and the one that came up was about love. Have you found love now? So me and Terry were talking about this before we started the show.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not that bothered. To be honest, I think you get to a stage where I'm just quite happy on my own.
So now you can tell you're getting old.
Yeah, that's right. I'd rather just have a cup of tea, slippers on, TV.
Digestive biscuit.
A Jaffa. Yeah, Jaffa.
Nothing wrong with a Jaffa cake.
Well, you don't have to tell us anyway, and maybe you can go on first dates.
That would be a good one.
They did a celebrity first dates, didn't they?
They did, yeah. That would be a good one to go on, actually. That would be a good laugh. At the very least, you're getting a good slap-up meal, aren't you?
Yeah.
So it's a win-win. Even if it's a bad date, you don't have to see them again.
No,
but you can have a nice bit of steak and chips.
Is that the one where they actually cook themselves up?
No.
Oh no.
That's not it. Okay.
That's can't remember what it's called.
Oh yeah, that's the
Dinner date.
daytime one.
Dinner date.
Dinner date. Yeah. Oh no, first dates is a lot
First dates
higher.
has to be the one, yeah.
It's a lot posher.
Yeah.
So it's a bit on a higher spectrum than Naked Attraction then.
Yeah.
You and your Naked Attraction, Dave.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about it before, and in a previous episode, I've got a friend that went on there.
Really? Naked Attraction?
Yeah, and he went on there, and he's happy for me to mention his name now, Gareth. So he went on there looking for love. He didn't get picked while he was on the show, but he met his boyfriend, and he's been with the boyfriend for, I think, 3-4 years now. And they met in the bar, and they were both on different episodes, and they got talking, and then they ended up exchanging numbers, and they've been together ever since. So the show kind of got them together, even though they didn't see each other on the show, which is pretty
Isn't that strange how it all works out? And are they still together now?
Yeah, I seen him last week when we were on holiday. So,
have they done a story on that? They should do.
No,
they should do, yeah.
Yeah. I said to Terry, we'll have to get him on the show. We will, because he's very flamboyant as well, Gareth. So fun. He is good fun.
Oh, do you know what? I might have seen it. Has he got like a beard?
I think he had stubble, but what happened was when he went on there, his mates dared him to do what they call a slut drop. So and that was
I've seen this.
Like the walk of shame or whatever. As they walk out, he did this slut drop and then walked off. And he's not like he said to his mates, "See, I told you I'd do it," because they all did it. They reckon he wouldn't do it, but but he's ever since. So that was the best thing he's ever done. That's what he said to me. He thoroughly
because he met his boyfriend.
Yeah, that's right. So best thing he's ever done.
Yeah.
Oh, good. It's a good experience.
Yeah.
That could be your first news story back into the news world.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it could be.
I can give you his contact details.
Cheers.
So what does the future hold then? What do you think? What do you think you're going to go into next? I know you said it's difficult at the moment.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's a good question. I don't know. I might do a book, I think.
Okay.
That could be quite good to tell my story, which is quite unusual, even for somebody like me. My particular story, because of what I did for 5 years. I don't think anyone's actually lived, in the real world. Has actually done that. So I might do a book. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't know. Oh fucking hell.
See, my mum can't watch this. You're spoiling it.
It's all right. I'm going to leave it anyway. I'm sure there was a movie with Barbara Streisand in it, and was that based on a true story? Yentl?
Yeah, it wasn't based on a true story, but it was Yentl. It was Yentl. Yeah, that was similar. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, it just popped into my head.
Yeah.
55 years worth of information in there somewhere. All right, and then we're going to let you go, otherwise David's going to keep going on forever.
I put my book down now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you a signed copy, guys.
Yeah,
and when I'm in Amsterdam, take me out. We'll go for a drink.
Yeah, make sure you tell me when you're coming over, if you come over.
Great.
No problem. And it's been really nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's been great.
I hope you don't get too much bullying on Twitter and stuff.
Thank you, guys.
It's
horrible at times, but thank you.
So, and don't block me on Twitter now. You've met me.
Of course not. All right.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming on. Lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
Have a good evening. See you now. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.